In this video we're going to take a look at how we can enable the new project management functionality within DDM for existing customers. So I'm going to take a look at this against projects. So if I have a look at my projects, these are my standard attributes prior to the new project management attributes. So these new attributes are available in the background, but they're not switched on by default because they're likely to conflict with attributes we've already configured against our folder template. And so to switch these new attributes on, we'll need to go into DDM admin. So if we go and have a look at folders, what we're looking at is the project folder. So I'm going to double click to edit this, and if we have a look at the attributes, then you'll see that the new project management attributes are in this folder template, but they're not actually displayed. So we can order this by the page, and we can see the attributes that aren't switched on assigned to page none. We can preview at any time to see, as we switch these on, how they affect the folder template. There are two that we're not going to enable at this time: the task order, which is more related to tasks, and the folder ID. So I'm going to start working through these. So we select the properties page and we switch on visibility of that attribute, and now we can see the new attributes starting to appear. So I'll continue to work through these. Now that these are completed, I can take a look at a preview of the folder, and I can see that I've got some conflicts here. So the new racy attributes have been fitted into this area here, so I need to pull these fields down by 3 rows, and typically our rows are 25 units per row. So if we move the created on attribute, then if we add 75 to this, then we move down to 200 and 202. And so that's now made space for these new attributes. If you want to take a look at the default layout for new folders, if I initially store this and then we'll select to create a new folder, if we go to the attributes page and look at a preview, then we can see the default layout for new folders. And so it might be an idea to take a screenshot of this so that you know how to arrange your new folder template. So I'm going to cancel this, go back to projects and continue to work through the fields. So now these are arranged. What you might also want to do is just change the label for the owner if we're using the racy attribute. So this would be responsible, accountability, consultation information. So we can change the owner label if we want to, and we'll change that to responsible. And now our folder template has been updated. For all of this information to appear correctly in DDM, it's a good idea just to log out and log back in again. So I'm going to do that. And now if we look at our projects, and we'll take this project as an example, if we open it up, then we can see our new attributes have been filled in on the folder form. What I'm going to do is just assign some of these. So we're going to edit the folder, and let's set green against on schedule, on spec, and on budget. We'll also set a start date, and we'll set a due date. And finally, we'll set a callback date. So initially, I'm just going to set that for next week. So if we save that, our folder form is updated, and clearly we could add the people who are accountable for consultation and information as well. So I'm just going to close that window. Having added that information from a project management point of view, it's useful to see that information on the main search results window. So we need to switch these attributes on in this window. So if we select folder attributes, if we go down to more, then we can switch them all on together. And the ones that we're looking for are callback date, on schedule, on spec, on budget. And if we just refresh that, we can now see that these are updated. As a member of this group, I should be able to now edit these within the main search results window. And with the callback date, if the date has passed, so if I go to an earlier date, you'll see the color changes to red. Once all of these have been populated, the projects can be ordered by callback date, making it easier to see which is a priority. So that's how we configure and switch on the project management attributes within the folders themselves. Let's just take a look at allocating time. So if we go back into the project, we've got a new time log tab. If we come here, we can allocate time to the project, and we'll say 100 hours, which is our initial estimate. And you'll see our as allocated is now starting to be populated. As we use time, we can log time against the project, and we could say 5 hours. And we can continue to allocate time in that way, and you'll see our hours remaining is now down to 95. So the next thing that we're going to take a look at is task management. So we've got this new tab for actions where we can create new tasks, and at the minute and by default you should just have a task type of action. There may be some things that we need to configure on an upgrade, and so we're going to go back into admin to take a look at this. If we look at our folder tasks, so this is the new folder task template. If we look at properties, we'll see that this is treated as an action, so it has different features to standard folders within DDM. One of the key features is that it must have auto numbering enabled. So if we have a look at the folder name, then this is auto numbered, and it has a default numbering of folder tasks. The other thing to check is the states. So by default we have assigned, complete, in progress, on hold, and unassigned, which is set as the default. So they should automatically be set for you. What you may need to take care of is the numbering. So if your system has numbering allocated to groups, so if we have a look at the config settings here, in my database number allocation is locked to specific groups. So it may be there's no group assigned to that numbering, in which case the task folders won't get numbered correctly. So if we come into our auto number administration, and if we just look at folders, here's our new folder tasks numbering. So if we edit this, in my case I've got a group called all users. You might have all employees, or you may have all, or you may need to create a new group that you just put all of the users in, and it's a convenient way of making sure that that numbering type is allocated to anyone who might be creating tasks. The final thing we need to check is access controls. So I'm going to set up to create tasks within this engineering project folder. So I need to make sure that the engineering department have access to be able to modify and create new tasks. So if we go into our access controls area, here's our folder tasks. Currently I've added all users, but we're going to need to add the engineering groups as well. So if we have a look in here, I need engineering department, And typically with the permissions, we're going to make it visible, so at all states. We're going to make it modify at all states except complete. And because at this stage the task is not assigned to a workflow, which is a more advanced feature of tasks, I'm going to select to allow a state change from and to any state. So we're just going to add the other engineering groups to this. So we've got engineering project managers, and we're going to add the same access controls for each of these groups. And we should now be ready to start using our tasks. So if we go back to DDM, and we're going to go to our Actions tab, and here we can now create a new task. So we're going to give this a description of, and we just hit return to create the new task. So our task is created, and we have a task order, so the next one will be 2. We've got our description. Currently this is unassigned, so I will assign it in a minute, but we can also set who's going to be accountable, who needs consultation with this, and so we can select these, the start date, etc., until we've populated the information that we need. And I'm now going to assign it. So first of all, I'm going to move it to assigned and say I'm going to assign this to Joe to do the work, whatever it might be. So we'll click on OK, and we've now created and assigned our first task. If we go back to the main user interface, we've got a search field against our own tasks, but if we're looking against all tasks in the database, then we can run a search for all tasks, and here we can see the task that's been assigned to Joe. Again, we can switch on any additional folder attributes as we want. The last thing that we're going to take a look at is how we can create different types of action. So we have a task, but maybe we want to create a new action for requirements, for example. To do that, we go back into admin, and the easiest way to do this is to select the existing task type folder, and we're going to copy from this. So here's our folder tasks folder, and we're going to copy this, and this is going to be requirements. And our folder copy is complete. Now we might want to assign a different numbering type to this, so I'm going to go back into auto number administration, and I'm going to add a new numbering type for requirements. This is available against folders, and our prefix this time is going to be REQ, and we're going to give it 6 digits. Again, we make it available to all users if our numbering is allocated to groups. So we have a numbering type set up. So we're going to go back to our requirement type. We're going to go to attributes, folder name, and we need to change this from folder tasks to requirements. And remember to right click and set that as the default. So that's our folder template complete. We now need to set access controls in the same way, so we're going to go back to the access control area, and now we should have our requirements folder with no groups assigned. So we're going to add, again, we're going to add our engineering groups. So engineering department, and we'll set the same permissions as before. So now these are all set, we can test this back in DDM. So we're going to go back to our project folder. We will open it up, and against actions now we should have two different action types, tasks and requirement. So we could set a new requirement of IP55 rating, for example, hit return on that, and we now have a new requirement created, and we can allocate and assign this in the same way as we did for the task. So just an overview for existing customers to show how they can enable the new project management features and the new task functionality within DDM.